Hello. All right. It's been a while. Let me turn the fan off here. Maybe. There we go. That's better. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Like I said, it's been a while. I don't think we've done one of these since, I don't know, last year sometime. And you can see my camera's a little skewed here. Can I fix that? Hey, Kevin, how are you? Can I fix the camera here? Hang on one sec. See if we can sort this out before we go too far. Too many options. Let's see if we can just kind of, wrong way, of course, right? 50-50 shot. We'll try that. I'll leave it there and see. That looks like I'm in the camera a little better. And I don't need these headphones since we're not playing music, so that's a little easier. All right. So here's what we're going to do today. Actually, Kevin, can you do me a favor? Just because it's been a while. Is audio coming through okay? Loud enough? Too loud? I got the mic in the right spot. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I've made myself a little bit of cheat. Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. I've made myself a little bit of a cheat sheet, and we're going to play around a little with Amazon Q Business Edition. It's still in preview mode, but I thought now would be a good time to try it out a little bit and see what we can do. So here's sort of the game plan for tonight. I don't know if we'll get through all of this on a stream for maybe a couple hours, but you know, the basic stuff. One thing I should say, the stream's going to be a little different tonight because as of right now, Q is not supported. The last time I looked, I did check last week and I don't think anything's changed. But as far as I know, Q is not supported by CloudFormation at this point. So we're going to write some Python code. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a session using Botto3 through SSO. So I'm going to access our little demo account through SSO. We'll create a client connection to Q. Again, Q right now only has those low-level resources, at least in the Botto API. So we don't have resources, we don't have waiters or anything like that. So we'll use client connections for that. And then there are a number of components. I did some reading on this. I hope I got everything covered off. But there are a number of components that we need. We need the actual application. Then we need what's called the index. There's a couple different ways you could do an index here, but we're going to keep it simple and use, I think it's called a native Q index. We'll double check the docs as we go. And then we're going to create a retriever. When I was reading the docs, the thing that we have to be careful of is the retriever requires the index to be there. And one of the challenges we're going to have is because the Botto libraries, if you want to call them that, I guess, right, for Q Business don't have waiters right now. So we'll have to go old school and create just a while loop or something like that. And then the last part is to create a data source. And this is how, if I'm understanding the documentation correctly, once we create the application, the index, and the retriever, in theory, we have an Amazon Q business application. So essentially, we've created something that we could then ask questions of. But again, I'm still learning this stuff, so I'm hoping I'm going down the right path. Without a data source, then the application doesn't know how to answer. So I think we'll just get either I don't know that or errors. I don't know. We'll get that far. So I think what we'll do is maybe we'll do this. Test just to see what happens. Okay, we'll try that out. I'm going to suspect it'll give us an error of some sort. And then we'll create a data source. And I'll show you this, again, did a bunch of reading. There's a lot of data sources that are supported out of the box. I think for today, I kind of was looking through the list. There's a couple really interesting ones in there. You can connect it to Slack, you can connect it to Jira. I think all these things are cool because, at least in what I do every day, I pretty much spend my whole day in PyCharm, Jira, or Slack. Usually jumping between each of those. So I think kind of being able to connect this to Jira and Slack would be interesting as sort of a use case, right? Because I'm assuming then it's going to gather up all the information in those tools and we could skid in, ask questions about it. I don't really know. I'm like I've mentioned a couple times already, I'm learning this stuff as I go. So you're going to be all of my guinea pigs here as we work on this. So those are interesting data sources, but I don't know if it's realistic to say we could actually use those today. I might have to do a little more reading and try to figure it out. But there is is it called a crawler? And what I thought we could do today is, if we make it this far, create a crawler and just point it at our website. And again, like, I don't know how long it's going to take to crawl the website. When can we start asking it questions and stuff like that? But this is the game plan for today. We'll see how far we make it. And on that, I cheated just a little bit. So here's what I did earlier today. Because, you know what? I didn't want to have to write all this. And it also gave me an opportunity to test to make sure that this stuff worked. So if I go like this, I right click and say run, it's going to authenticate me. We're using SSO for this, so that should be fine. And then wow, I've totally forgotten how I've had this all set up. Where did PyCharm go? There we go. So you can see it doesn't do anything, right? It just exits with 0 code. So that's a great test. We're creating our session, we're creating our client connection, and then we're closing up the client connection. So that's an easy, hey, we did this, right? I cheated, but it still counts. We did those first two things. As far as I can tell, everything's good. What we're going to do now is we're going to create the application. So I'm going to just make a few notes here. Create a queue application. Okay, we'll create a queue index, and then we'll create a queue retriever. But remember, in here, we need to wait on the index before we can create the retriever. So that's kind of the game plan. And let's just see here. I've got Code Whisperer turned on. You can see, I don't know, it's probably pretty small, but since we're talking about Gen AI and everything today, let's make sure Code Whisperer is on. I know the text is a little small, but we've got Q over here to help us as we stumble through some stuff. I'm sure we'll be using Q today as well to help us, but there we go. Okay, so we're all set. Let's jump over to Firefox, and I just want to show you a couple things. Hopefully this is all perfect, still working. All right, so this is Q, right? So what is Amazon Q for Business? So fully managed Gen AI powered assistant that you can configure to answer questions, provide summaries, generate content, and complete tasks based on data in your enterprise. Pretty cool. Sounds pretty cool to me. And then this is what we're going to work through. But here's what I'll do. I'll actually just throw this in chat. Yeah, nailed it first typo. It counts, right? Even though I probably had a typo this afternoon, I would suspect. And at least this way you didn't see that first typo, right? So yeah, you can have a look at this. I think this is really interesting. I'm really kind of excited to see what people create with this thing over time. And like I said, I cheated a little here. And here are the steps that we're going to go through, right? Configuring an application. And obviously you can do all of this through the management console. Oops, there we go. We're going to do this programmatically. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create an application. And here is the code that we'll use for our application. And again, we're going to kind of wing a little bit of this. So let's read through some of this stuff as we go. The first thing is attachments configuration, an option to allow end users to upload files directly during chat. That sounds kind of neat. I don't think we'll do it today. We're going to keep this bare bones for the time being. What else is client token. So this is a token to uniquely identify our requests. Okay, if we don't provide it, it's auto-populated, so that's good. A description, a display name, encryption. Let's see here. The identifier of the KMS key that's used to encrypt your data. Amazon Q doesn't support asymmetric keys. Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll let Q use its own key for this for now, just to try to simplify it and see how far we can get. We do need a role for this, so this will provide the application with permissions to access our CloudWatch logs and metrics. So it's going to integrate into CloudWatch for us automatically, and then we can tag it. So I think the first thing we need here is a role ARN, or not a role ARN, but a role. And once we get this, then we can figure out how to get, we'll take the ARN and include it in the configuration piece. Okay. Oh, and this is only, Q is only supported in a couple regions right now. It's supported in US East 1 and I think it's Oregon, whatever Oregon is. Okay, so we're going to be working in US East 1, Northern Virginia. So if we pop back over here, the question is, how do we want to create our role? You know, I think for today, what I think I'll do is I'm going to create the role just through the management console. I think that's what I'm going to do, because I'd like to see how much of this we can get built. And I know we write a lot of CloudFormation on the stream. I'll come back later and I can fill in the CloudFormation templates. I think we've written, well, probably 1,000 IAM roles and throughout the stream over time. So we'll avoid seeing that, and we'll create it manually. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go back to the documentation. And the first thing we need to do is create an application. Getting started. Somewhere in here, there's probably, here we go, IAM roles. Okay, so we need an IAM role for our application. This is what we're creating. Oh, look at this. Okay. Nice. So this is going to allow Q to access CloudWatch. So it's allowing it to put metric data, describe the log groups, create a log group, and then put events into the log group. Again, you know what? I immediately see this and I think, oh, well, let's write CloudFormation to create the log groups, because then we have control over all of that. I think we'll circle back on that and do it later on. Okay, so for now, let's go back over here. We'll open up IAM and we're going to create a new policy. And we'll call this, policy editor. So we'll go JSON and we'll go back to the documentation. We'll just copy this. Good old ClickOps here to get this done. Nothing wrong with ClickOps. Okay, so that's fine. We don't have to change anything there. I'm just looking for like account IDs or anything like that. Here we go. So this will be, US East 1. And then we'll get the account ID. Dump that in there. And we have to do the same thing now. All right. Perfect. So we'll say next. We'll call this Twitch Q Business Application Role. We'll create that policy. Okay, good. Easy. You know what? Maybe I'll make a few notes as we go too. So if we go back to PyCharm and we go to our README, we could do this, right? Otherwise, I'll forget. That's not how you spell prerequisites, but that's okay. Create an IAM role for business app. I know this is kind of, let's call this prereq. There we go. Okay. And we'll add some additional to-dos here. So that's the first thing. And then we're going to need, this is the permission doc. We'll need, here's the role too. Look at that. So we'll copy that. And then we'll go here and we're going to say role, create, and we'll use, in this case, it's a custom trust policy. Dump that in there and we're going to have to make a few more changes, right? So here's our condition saying, make sure this is coming from a particular source account. So in our case, it's our demo account. And we're going to need that down here too. Well, I dropped a quote. Come back. Fix that. There's that. All right, we'll do that. Perfect. So we've got a condition says this, the source of the call must be our demo account, and the ARN that is the source ARN must be any application, so it's /* in this account in this region. And then here, I already forget what we called this. Business. There we go. Next, and we'll call this Twitch Q Business Application Role. All right, perfect. And then if I do business, here it is. We're going to need this ARN in our first little chunk of code. So with that in mind, let's go back here. How do I want to do this? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to dump it in a different browser so I can refer to it so I don't have to jump back and forth quite as much. So we'll go to PyCharm. And so we're going to say, for now, I'll just do this. Create Q application, and we'll pass it the Q client. Here. And all we're passing in is the client. Okay, so we'll create a simple try loop, and we'll say response equals, oh, look in the wrong spot. Client dot create application. And let's see what we need. So we decided we won't worry about attachment configurations. Client token, we're gonna let Boto take care of that for us. I don't know if that's the wrong decision or not, but we'll do that. And we'll say description equals, why don't we pass this in as a variable too? We'll go Q application description. And then we need a display name. And we'll pass that in as well. I'll just call it Q. Actually, let's shorten these. We'll say Q app name. Q description. We'll shorten that one too. So that's our display name. We said that we're going to leave the encryption configuration. We'll just use a KMS key that's managed on our behalf by Q. Okay, and then we're going to say, oh, this is where we need our role ARN, which equals, we'll do this, role ARN. Actually, I better be careful because I remember we'll say Q app role ARN. And then we've got tags, which we will do because we always go on about the importance of tags, right? So we're going to do this. We'll copy the same things that we normally do. So we'll say key owner. And we'll say, we're going to put these on one line like this. Value, Sirius orbit. And we'll do the same thing that we always do. Let's Twitch chat curious orbit.com. And then we'll go here and say we usually use environment. And maybe what we should do is pass this in as a variable as well. Now what I did was, I didn't point out at the very beginning, I'm using a library here. It's the AWS SSO lib from, geez, I can see the guy and I cannot remember his name. That's horrible. Ben, I'm going to say his last name wrong. Kehoe. Let me find you the link for this because I use this all the time. And when I'm doing any sort of SSO stuff, and this is just a really an easy, a simplified way of getting set up through SSO for scripts and stuff like that. So that's that. And then what I did was I passed all of this in a config file. So you can see what I'm doing here, right? I'm grabbing all of the config values. I wanted to separate this. I didn't want to put this in Git. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump all of you back over here for a minute while I edit my config file. So just bear with me a sec. And I already forget what I have to do. What did we pass in? We passed in, I need the role ARN. How do I want to do this? Yeah, let's do Q business role ARN. And bear with me a second here. I'm going to copy from here this ARN. We'll dump that in there. And then the other thing I want to pass in, it's not like it's top secret or anything like that. We'll just pass environment in as well as a variable. I think those are the only two things that I'm passing here. Okay, so let me flip back to PyCharm. And what we'll do is right here, we're going to grab these. So we'll say Q business role ARN equals. I think I called it the same thing. Role ARN. And then we'll say environment equals environment. And then we're going to do this. We're going to pass into here, we'll call it description. We'll call it name. We'll call it role ARN, and then we'll call it app environment. And I'm just going to copy all of this because by the time I scroll down, I'll forget it. So we need all of that right here. So we're going to do this. So our description is, we're going to just call it a Twitch demo application. Our name is a Twitch demo app. Our role ARN, if I've done this correctly, should come from our config file. And just to make this a little easier to read, we pass our environment in as well, like that. We can get all this. Now, what's it not liking here? What did I do? End of statement expected. Oh, forgot a comma, didn't it? So in theory, we've got this set. We need an exception loop, which I always forget how to do. So I'm going to copy this from the Vado documentation. So just give me a sec. And we're going to do something really super sophisticated for this. There we go. Actually, we'll do it like this. We're going to do print air. And then this is, I think it's client code? Can't remember what it is. Or error code. Hang on. Let me just see if I can find it in the doc. Yeah, it's error code. That. Okay, so that way we'll catch any errors. And what does this return? So if we jump back over to Firefox, we go back here, right? So assuming that this works, we've typed everything correctly. What does it return? It gives us the ARN and the ID. Let's grab these. We'll return these because we might need them for something else later. And let me just, again, copy this. Oh, I've got it. Okay. So what we can do is in the script, we can just do something like this. Return response. It was application ARN and response application ID. And then down here can go Q. I forget what it was. Okay, ARN is the first thing we send. And then Q ID equals. Under indented. Oh, sorry. Where does it want me to indent that to? Maybe if I do this. There we go. Okay. So now we can use the ARN and the ID somewhere else in the script. I'm going to make an assumption here that when we're creating some of these other components, it's going to want an ARN or an ID or something to tie it back to the application, right? All right. So what we're going to do, this is going to, I know there's probably a better way to do this. Like we could probably put a loop in here or something, or here, I'll show you what I'm thinking rather than trying to explain it. If we go back to Firefox, here we go here. Well, I'm in the right spot. So I'm wondering if in here, like we could get fancy and run a get application API call with an application ID. Well, how would we know the ID? Because I bet you the ID is some weird thing. What I was thinking is, could we put logic in the script to say, check to see if the app exists before you try to create it? Because what I'm thinking is we're going to run this script a bunch of times to get it working, but we'll have to do some cleanup each time, because if I try to run the script again, it's probably going to give me an error saying that the application already exists or something, but we'll keep it simple today. Maybe what I'll do is here, go back to the README and say, add here, just another thing to remember. Well, actually, let's do this. So we'll do. All right, so let's run this and see what happens. I've got my main loop. Okay. You know how many times I've done this? I create my main function here, and then I run the script and nothing happens. I'm like, why doesn't it happen? What's wrong? And I've forgotten that. So let's see what happens. Q app description is not defined. Q app description. So it's complaining about line 11. Oh, look what I did. Q. No. Yeah, I've typed these all wrong, haven't I? It's got to be like that. And we just called this environment. So let's make them all the same. We'll do Q environment. Like that. Okay, let's try it again. There we go. Exit code 0. We could put some print statements, I guess, and stuff like that. Let's go back to Firefox. And there we go. A Twitch demo app is being created. And let's see what we can see so far. Oh, this is neat. It gives us like a little, hey, you did this. What's next? What's next? See that? Application ID. There's probably a different way we could do this then. You want to check to see if the application is created already before you try to create it. We're using an Amazon Q owned key. There's the role that we created earlier on. I didn't see anything about titles or subtitles, so I'm not sure what that is. But there we go. Okay, step 1 done. So we can say that we have an application. Here, I'm going to show you what I mean, why this is going to be a problem, right? If I go, oops, I'm in the wrong spot. If we go back here, if I run this again, there we go. There's a conflict. So I wonder if we could do something like, could we do this? If error code equals conflict exception, we're going to say print Q application with that. I'm going to say name. I don't know if this is the correct way to think about it, but a Q application with that name already exists. And then we're going to say exit 1. Okay, so if we run this now, yeah, I see that. Oh, what did I do wrong? If error think you got to do this. Unexpected types. Huh? I'm just doing something. Yeah, it doesn't like this at all. Well, well, let's do this instead. We're going to go print. I want to see what this does. We'll say print response error. I'm doing something wrong here. Let me check. Let's go back to the Boto doc for a second and just see if it's something like, I don't want to get too hung up on this. If we can't figure it out here quickly, we'll put it in the future to-do list. Okay, so here's the error handling thing that I was looking at. And see, I was doing, oh, see this here? That's what I did wrong. If error dot response, I put it in brackets, didn't I? So if we go back here, so we could do this and say conflict exception. We'll say print we'll say exit 1. And then we'll do this. We'll say else print, and then I'll just do this. That's right. There we go. So we get a nicer an explanation rather than having to look at that. Doesn't really make much of a difference, right? So, okay, our application is there. Done. Now we need an index. We go back over here, and we go here, create index. Okay, so what do we need to do here? We need to provide it the application ID, capacity configuration, the capacity units you wish to provision for your index. You can add and remove capacity to fit your needs. So we're going to use a whopping capacity of 1. I have no real idea what we need here, but we'll try 1, okay? Client token, provide to identify the request, multiple calls with the same token will create only 1 request. Okay, so auto-populated again. A description, a name, a list of tags, and then it returns an ARN and an index. Okay, so let me pull that up in my other browser window here so that I can use that for reference. And then if we go back to PyCharm, so we're going to say Q index ARN, Q index ID equals create Q index. We're going to have to pass the client again. And then it wanted the application ID. So we'll say Q app ID. And then we're going to put some other things in here, but I already forget what they are. So, client Q app ID. We'll start with these, and we're just going to do the same thing. So try response equals client dot create index. Application ID equals Q app ID. We need our capacity configuration units. Why don't we do this? We'll do Q index app units, right? We'll pass that in as a variable. Q index cap units. And then as we do this, we'll go through and we'll do this. So 1, okay? It's going to be the largest index ever created. Client token we don't need. Description equals, how did we name it up here? We'll make this Q, oops, wow, that was a little index description. Display, can't type all of a sudden. Display name equals Q index name. And then we've got tags, and we're gonna use the same set of tags. This. So that means we need all of this. That. And pass in our environment as well. I'm going to do the same thing we did before and just borrow all of this so I don't have to remember it. Okay, so we got client, we got app ID, we got our index, we need a description. So we're going to say a twit demo index, and then a twit demo index, and then we set environment, right? And I'll shorten this line up, but that's everything that we need, right? We got our units, we have our description, our name, and our environment. Okay. So then let's just create a new line there. It doesn't like something I've done here. What have I done wrong? Need more values to unpack. Let's get rid of our Q window here for a sec. What am I missing? Got a bunch of weird spacing. Let's copy this again. When all else fails, I don't know, I do this all the time. Just line stuff up. It's a highly sophisticated troubleshooting technique. So we got our client, we got our app ID. We got our index, our cap units, our description, our name, and our environment. Okay. So actually, let me leave this line here. Get rid of all the spaces. And let's go piece by piece through this. So this is complaining we need more values to unpack. And my understanding is that's where we basically the function is expecting all of these things and we haven't passed it, right? So we're going to say, comma, Q. Yeah, very much. Q ID. Oh, look at that. It's highlighting it. We want 1 for our index. We're in our description. So we'll call, what did we call this? We said a Twitch demo index. We're on our index name, a Twitch demo index, and then environment. I don't know what it doesn't like. I'm just going to get rid of, I don't think this has anything to do with it, but okay, well, one thing I know we need to do, we need to get rid of the application first, because if we try to run this again, it's going to fail. So I know this is kind of silly, but we're just going to delete it. Why do we want to do this? We're just curious. So we'll get that guy disappeared. And we'll go back over to PyCharm. And let's just run this again and see what this does. Oh, you know what? Hold on. We also need, this is really going to error out if we do this, right? So we need our exception catch here. And for now, we don't know what the exceptions are. So we'll just do the good old print statement. And then we need to return some stuff. So in this case, I think it was index AR. Index ARN, and then index ID. Hey, cleaned it up. So we were looking in the wrong spot for the error, which isn't unusual. Okay, so we'll get rid of those. Okay, that's good news. So let's do this. Run it again. And process finished. Success. Well, we've got, I don't know if you can hear it, but I've got my window open. It's a little warm in here, actually. And a neighborhood dog is talking to another neighborhood dog. Okay, so there's our application. Oh, here's our index. So we've got an index ID, and then the next thing we will create is our retriever. That's the other piece. So that's good. So this is creating, and then the application is created, the index is creating, and there are no documents in the index. All right, so next part. We can say that we have our index. Now this is the little piece that we need to figure out, because if I tried to create a retriever right now, from what I read, is the index has to be available before the retriever can be created. And what we'll do is we'll write the retriever code, I think, and then we'll have to figure out a little way to, actually, let's do this. Let's create a loop, like just a simple while loop or something like that, that we can use to check if the index is there. Normally, I mentioned at the very beginning of the stream, we normally do this with like a waiter, but I guess because it's so new, it's in preview at this point, there aren't waiters available for this. So a while loop is the simplest way I can think of doing this. All right, so the first thing then we'll need to figure out, if we go back to Boto, okay, so we've got a create index. That's what we just did. There's probably a get. There we go. Get index. And all it needs is the app ID and the index ID. So here's what I'm thinking. We could just create a loop that says, while this is not true, check for the index. And then when we finally get a response from the index, oh, look at, here's all the, I didn't even know they did this. Here's the, here are the exception lists. So when, I lost my train of thought because I got distracted. We'll do a while not true loop. So while the index is not there, just check every 30 seconds if it's there. And then we'll set that value to true when we get a response back that says the index is there. And then at that point, we can say, all right, you're good. Call the create retriever call. I think that's probably the way we can figure this out. So let me pull up my cheat sheet here and the other one for get index. All right, great. Otherwise, I'd drive you and myself batty trying to go between these two screens all the time. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's do this. Index created equals false. And then we'll say, wow. Oh, okay, here you go. I know this should be easy, but I cannot remember this. Here's where Q is handy for this. Show me an example of a while not loop in Python. Oh, of course, reauthenticate. I don't know. Q is a part of my daily workflow now. Let's try it again. I think I should be authenticated. Okay, so X is, well, not X equals 5. Print X. Okay, so while necessarily what I wanted. How can I ask this? Can you show me Let's see if that'll give me a better structure. I apologize, but your request seems to be out. Really? Okay. Show me a Python. I've never had that one. While based on booleans, like true and false. X equals true while X. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. While not index created. Oh, look at that. Wow. That's impressive. Did you see what that just did? How the heck? Sometimes this stuff just amazes me. So it pulled in our app ID. It pulled in our index ID. It knows what we need there. And then it's got an exception list. And I don't know if I want the sleep timer in the exception. So I'm going to put it here and we're going to say sleep 30. Oh, wait, no, this won't work. What did it have here? This won't work. Time sleep. Yeah, okay. So what we need to do up here, oh, we've already got that. Import time. So I'm just going to take this out of that and I'm going to do it like this. And we're going to do, while not true, we'll say print. See, we even did that. Waiting on the queue index to be created. And then what we can do right here, yeah, so this is true. I guess we could make the queue retriever call in here, but I don't know if I want to put that in the loop. Okay, so go back to Firefox. Let's clean up our application by very heavy-handedly just deleting it, which should get rid of the index, I'm guessing. Okay, there we go. So if we go back to here and let's run this again. Hey. Wonder why. Maybe I do need that print statement and stuff inside the inside the exception piece. I was expecting to see it. While not true, I was expecting it to kind of continue to print and I don't know, that wasn't what I expected to see there. Let's refresh this. Here's our new app. And see, that's something's not right there because that's still going. So maybe, okay, so let's delete this. Maybe what Code Whisperer showed me was true and I just ignored it, right? So what we'll do is we'll go back here to PyCharm. And I think what it had was, I think it was like, something doesn't feel right about this. Well, let's try it. Let's do this. I'm not going to put, well, we'll leave the error code there. We'll put it like that. Let's see what it does. I'm expecting to see multiple, because you saw how long it was taking to create that index, right? No, see, something isn't right here. Well, not index created. I guess we could, let's get rid of all of this. And all we're going to leave for the time being, we're not actually going to make these API calls. Okay, we're just going to do this. And I know this will never end. I got to clean up. Hold on. Delete that again. I know this will never end, but I just want to see, what I'm expecting is we see this printed over and over again because index is never created, right? So let's run this. So we should see in 30 seconds another statement, because what we've done is we've created a loop that will never exit at this point. "30 seconds seems like forever when you're sitting watching something." Okay, so we know that works. So let's go back here and say, try. Oh, look, it did something different this time. See this? Okay, hold on. I knew we'd be using Code Whisperer tonight. So here's our get response. Or sorry, here's our get index call, and here's the response syntax. And that's what we needed. We were never actually checking the status of the index itself. So now we're going to look to see if the status of the index is active. We know we're good and we can continue on. That makes more sense. So here, right, if response status equals active, then this. Else, print an error code. But what we want to do is we're going to go here and say print waiting on the queue index to be created, ... And we definitely don't want to wait 1 second. We'll wait 30 seconds. And let me just delete that application because it's probably back again, isn't it? Signed out. Makes sense, right? I should have realized that at the beginning. We weren't actually checking the status. I'm just deleting the app again. We can run it from scratch. Okay, so let's try this again. We'll go back to PyCharm. So this is probably handy, right? If we've got something wrong in our response, then at least we'll capture the client error there. Otherwise, we'll just continue to print this. Okay, so let's try it again. We definitely need a few other print statements. Okay, so there we go. Let's see if we get one more. The mood lighting just turned on. Home automation. What's the saying? A watched pot never boils. There we go. Okay, perfect. As soon as I said it, it worked. So if we go back here, we should have, there's our demo app. Okay, so that's our application ID down here. Let's wait and see what happens to our index. I don't know how long this will take. While we're waiting, why don't we look? Remember how when I said up here we didn't have a title or a subtitle? I don't remember seeing that in the documentation. Well, where was it? Here. So we're going to create an application. Yeah, it's not there. Maybe that comes from somewhere else. Sure. So create an application, create an index. Nothing there. We're going to create a retriever. Display name, role ARN. Oh, another role. Here's our type. I wonder where that comes from. I don't know where that comes from. Web experience. Ah, there we go. Subtitle. And title. Welcome message. Okay. Perfect. So let's go over here. Okay, that finished. I went to the wrong spot. I was already in the right spot, wasn't I? Back over to the consoles. And I couldn't have been signed out already. Over here. There we go. There we go. Div index with a whopping index provisioning of 1 capacity unit. Perfect. All right. So making good progress. That is... Okay, so we created the index. I should have done it like this, right? Create a waiter. Use a while loop. No auto3 waiters. And then we can do it like this. Plus, this also lets me cross off something else. All right, so let's create our retriever. If we go back to the documentation, what do we need to do here? We need our application ID, configuration, and this is where, so these are the 2 types of retrievers you can use. So Kendra is an AWS managed service that is a little, I don't really know a lot about it, but I do know this. It's expensive. So for the demo, what we're going to do is we're going to use a native Q index. We have to pass in our index ID, display name, role ARN. So I wonder what role it needs here. I don't know. Is it required here? It is not. Basic authentication credentials stored in the secrets manager. Okay, we're not going to do that for now, and we're going to see how far we can make it. We're probably going to have to come back and add something, but we won't worry about secrets manager right now. Display name, tags, and type. Okay, pretty basic. And then let me just pull that up in my doc cheat sheet over here. Create index, and we'll go back to here. So now that that's done, we're going to do this. Create Q retriever. Ooh, look at that. I don't already forget what we need. Def create Q retrieve. We'll just do client for now because I got to look all this up. Try. Oh, I pulled the wrong thing up. Look at that. It's figuring it out for us. Create retriever. I pulled up the index again. So first thing is we need Q ID. Because this first part is application ID equals Q app ID. Client token's fine. And then we need configuration equals. And this is where we want to make sure we're using native index. And make sure I get the spelling right. Configuration. And we need to pass the, it's lowercase, index ID. This, and we'll say Q index ID. Up here. You know, I'm gonna fill these out as we go down here, because last time this caused us some trouble, right? App ID, index ID. Okay, so it auto-populated those for us already. So that's our configuration. We need another. Oh, we got the curly brace. I'm looking right at it. That's the curly brace, comma, display name. And we're going to do Q retriever. Yeah, we'll just do Q retriever name. Here. And we'll say a demo. What did we call the other ones? A Twitch demo? Yeah, okay. A Twitch demo retriever, comma. We not re-environment like that. And then we need, we said we're going to skip over the role ARN for now. We'll see if we need that, because I don't know if we need that in this case, because we're going to do we're not storing any credentials here, because I'm going to see if we can just create a web crawler and point it at our website. So I don't think we're going to need it. Okay, so display name, I always like to leave tags to the end. So we're going to say type equals, and we won't hard code this. We'll say Q retriever type pair. Q type. And then we can just put that down here as, how do they want this? They want it this. Native underscore index. And then we can borrow here the tags. I don't know if we're going to need anything out of the returns, but since we've been doing that for everything else, let's do it. Oh, we got to do this too, right? Q environment. Okay, now it's definitely not index. It's retriever ARN and retriever ID. Like that. And then we can borrow again from this guy to finish our try loop. Okay, so in theory, this should do the whole thing. Let's add some print statements, because I keep saying, and then when we start working on the stuff, I forget it. So we're going to just do this. Say print creating a Q application ... We'll say print oh, wow. Don't want all that. I don't know what it was picking up there. ... So that way we can get some, we see what it's doing at least. Not that it's taking like forever to deploy, but at least we can see something on the screen. Okay, so there's our retriever piece. All right, so we need to delete the application because the application should be here again, I think. Yeah, there it is. So we'll just delete. Okay. Here and run it. There we go. Index. Oh, we could have done something fancy in there and did a print/t to tab it in one space to make it a little more readable. I used to do that in back in the day when I used to write a lot of Perl scripts and stuff like that for systems management and monitoring, and we took a lot of time and effort to get the error logs coming out of all the scripts that were doing outbound notifications and all that kind of good stuff. The logs, we were very particular about how it was all laid out, so it was easy to read after the fact. /t would look good right there, right? You can get fancy, put timestamps in it, right? This is an info. I guess you could do all sorts of stuff if you wanted. I don't remember how many were here last time. Like how many 30-second loops we went through. Yeah, me too. Nice square brackets, timestamp, right? The log level. Yeah, why not, right? If you can. I'm sure there's probably like I should know this, like logger in Python or something like that that could help you do that. So what do we got there? That's about 2 minutes so far. Right, if they're 30-second loops. I wonder if the amount of time it takes to create the index is based on the capacity units that you've assigned to the index. I don't know. Guess we could try it. We could put 20 in the capacity and see what it does. 2.5 minutes. The moment I go over to the console, this will finish. So I'm practicing my patience here, waiting for this to come to life. We could probably be doing something more productive with our time. I'm thinking like, because I read about that, what was it called? I already forget now. There was the retriever. We looked in the documentation. Go back over here. We pulled the docs up. We had all the different creates. Create web experience. Sample prompts. Determines whether sample prompts are enabled in the web experience for an end user. Subtitle, tags, title, welcome message. The customized welcome message for end users of an Amazon Q experience. Well, let's see. Did it finish? It's still creating. Wow. I don't think it took that long last time. So what we're going to do is we're going to add to our list here. I'm going to say that retriever is probably done. So we're going to create a web experience. So we're going to add that to our to-do list. Create a web experience. All right. It's getting good at trying to predict what we want. Def, create, Q. Oh, what did we call it? I don't think we put Q in there. Q, oh, we did. Q, oh boy. Webhook, web. Man, my brain is all of a sudden fried. What is it? Yeah, web_experience. And again, we'll build this out as we go. I wonder why the index isn't getting created this time. Did you see what it just did? Print, creating a Q web experience. Wow, this stuff is neat. I don't know why it's doing one line at a time, but we're going to say response equals client dot create web. I'll pull this up in Chrome over here so I can see it at the same time. Create web_experience. If it will load. Yeah, it does sound fancy, doesn't it? Okay, so the first thing we need is an application ID. And this is going to be, oh yeah, now it's just, what do they call this? Hallucinating. So we're going to call this, what did we call all the other ones? I think Q_ID. So we'll start building a list again. App ID. Client token. It does not require, looking at the doc here, sample prompts control mode. It's not required, but I think we'll put it in because I want to disable it. Oh, look, we got an error. Not a very helpful error. The validation one. Okay, so let's finish this. Sample prompts control mode equals, and actually, why don't we, because we haven't hard coded anything, why don't we do Q web prompts? Actually, we'll call this prompt mode. Okay. So we can pass that in as a variable too. Q, I don't know if we're going overboard on the variables, but, and then we've got subtitle, Q web subtitle. We've got tags. Okay, let's do it like this, just because it's not alphabetical. ST, yeah. I was just figuring out my alphabet there. Web title. Okay. Q web title. And then finally we have a welcome message. We have to have a welcome message, right? qweb welcome MSG. And then we can add our tags. So we'll just copy from here. Put our tags there, and then close this guy up. This one needs to environment. Or sorry, Q environment is correct, right? Here. That, and then we'll just grab this. Okay, so all we're capturing, so this is a validation exception, which means we probably sent something to the retriever in the API call that the retriever wasn't expecting. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to go down here and we're just going to comment this out for the time being so that we don't actually run that, because I don't think we're quite ready for that yet. And then what we're going to do in the retriever section, which is where right here, we're going to add another exception capture here. And again, I have to look this up in the doc. I think we left it open right here. So see, these are client errors, but then there's validation errors as well. And I thought I saw an example in here where they had both. See right here? I thought I saw one in here the other day. That's client errors. You know what? I'm just going to try this. Let's just do this. And we will take that and we're going to put it here like this. And what I'll do is we'll just say, I wonder if it's exactly the same. I wonder if I can just do this. Like that. I don't know if that'll work or not. Let's try it. So we got to delete our app again. What am I doing? Wrong place. Applications here. Delete. I should write a little bottle script that we can use just to delete this every 5 minutes. We're just curious. Delete. Okay, so that's that. And then let's go back over here. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this again. I don't know what validation exception we didn't pass to it. Actually, why don't we? No, I want to see what the error is. So let's run this and see if it can capture both the client errors and the validation errors, the parameter validation errors. So there's our application getting created. There's our index. This might be a long wait again, right? Well, while we're waiting, we'll let it time out. While we're waiting, let's go back over here. So in theory, if we've got our web experience, if you look here, we create our Gen AI app, enhance the application, add plugins, admin controls, topic guardrails. That's kind of neat, but we won't worry about it today. Our web experience, and then deploy the web experience. Oh, that's neat. So I guess probably deploying the experience means people could use it at that point. Maybe we get a web, like a web endpoint or something. I don't know. I don't know how that works. If we go back over here, an application, a retriever. So we've got the native retriever piece and the Kendra retriever, and then our data sources. We have a preview of our web experience. So we're creating our web experience. Okay, this is the API calls for that, which we already did, right? Title, subtitles, sample prompts. Okay. Deploying the web experience. This is our final step. Makes it available For end users, you deploy the web experience you created. Before you deploy the web experience, you must set up end user authentication. Okay, so that's probably going to be out of scope for today because it's already about 8:30. We'll go for about another half an hour, I guess, couple good hour, 2-hour stream. So we need to integrate Q with an IDP. Q can work with any IDP that's compliant with SAML 2.0. It uses single sign-on to authenticate users. Create a web experience. Deploy it. Yeah, this might be something we'll have to play around with a little bit later on and see what happens. Let's check our Python script, see what it did. It is still chugging along. Somewhere in here, I made a mistake in this retriever code. So let's go through the retriever code and see if we can find. I think it's complaining about this. There's probably like a camel case error or something. Here, let me do it this way. Let's go back to PyCharm and I'll pull that up in Chrome over here so I can look at it at the same time. Application ID, Q app ID. And we've got the right call down here, right? Q app ID, okay. Oh, you know what? Oh, let's get rid of, I keep looking in the wrong spot. Q index ID. It doesn't like the spacing, but that's not going to be the problem. So there's Q index ID. Did we pass that in properly? There's our Q index ID, which should come from back here. Okay, so that's good. In theory, that looks right. Our Q retriever name, which we have right here, demo retriever. I wonder if the name doesn't like spaces, because up here, descriptions had spaces, names didn't. I wonder if that's the problem. So what did we call this? A Twitch demo. So we'll say a Twitch demo. We'll do it like this. Our retriever type, oh, sorry, that's retriever name. There's retriever type. And we typed that down here, native index. So not using Kendra, using a Q retriever. And then we have environment, which should be the least of our worries, right? Q environment, Q environment. I wonder if it's the name. Maybe this time it'll tell us something a little more useful since we put that parameter exception in there. See what it does. So we got 10 there, 30 seconds. That's 300 seconds. That's 5 minutes. That's generally the timeout that they like to use, the default timeout. And then it spits another one out as soon as I said it. Typical. Let's see. We know it's going to fail. I just want to see if it gives us a better exception response back. Oh, man. Oh, you know what we could do while we're waiting? Because this is painful for it to time out. Let's go back over here and I'll show you. I was reading about the data source connectors. So remember I was mentioning all the different connectors. So look at all the connectors. I was actually a little surprised when I decided to do this. I was surprised at the number of connectors that were available, but I guess it would make sense if you're trying to, it's in preview mode right now. You want to have enough features to make people interested, but not too many features that people aren't going to use anyways. But look at them all. Right? There's a pretty good list. So what I thought we could do today, if we could figure out our validation error, is we will use this guy, an Amazon Q web crawler, a Q web crawler to Amazon Q, okay? And we've got API and console for this. there's a bunch of things you have to do. We'll look at what this looks like in the API call, but depending on our time, if we wanted to, I might just try to get this running in the console for now, just to see if we can get it running. But because we're just doing a web crawler, source URL, like maybe that's all we need, right? 10 starting points of the websites that you want to crawl. And we'll just point it at our website for the time being, the CuriousOrbit.com website. So it doesn't look really too bad, although there's a lot of choices to make here. We'll check the doc and see what's required and what isn't. Okay, there we go. It made no difference. It just, yeah, I'll look at this and see if we can figure this out. I'll add it to the future to-do list. If I didn't have, so we've got this, because we've got this in a try loop, because I'm just doing like this, I wonder if I just did like print error, we'd get a more useful error. If it still fails after this, I'll do that. But I'm thinking that the error probably was in the name itself because we put spaces in the name, right? Let's go back to the browser. Let's go to the console and we'll delete this guy. How many Gen AI assistants have we created today to very quickly just remove? That's got to be 6 now, maybe? Okay, so we'll go back to PyCharm. And we did change, let me just check to make sure we changed the retriever name. Okay, so now there are no spaces in the retriever. And we're going to run this again and see if this fixes it. The only thing that I'm a little confused about is the loop never finishes, right? Our while loop. And I would have thought that if there was a problem in again, maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot, right? If there was a problem with the retriever, that the index would create successfully, and then when we tried to make the API call to create the retriever, it would fail. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. The other thing we could try, if this times out and fails on us again, we could try creating the retriever in the console and see what happens. It's got to be the retriever though, because Kevin, remind me, did the index create successfully before we added the create retriever call? I think it did, right? I want to say that it did. Let's go back to the console while we're waiting. Yeah, I thought so too. It's kind of like watching paint dry. So this is, we'll customize our web experience, which looks to be a simple API call, and then we can add our data source. Let's look at the data source. Create data source. Document enrichment. Tags, VPC config. So the only thing that looks interesting is this right here. See this? Whoa. This configuration piece, which is right here, and it's required. So what do we need to add there? Configuration required. See configuration templates for your sample data source. Okay. Hold on, let's go like this. Oh, this takes us right back to where we were. Meh. Here. Does this give us an example API call using the console? Using the API. Here we go. Oh, look at that. type object, sitemap URLs, seed URL. Oh, seed URL. Okay, I read about this. This is if you put, you have the URLs in an S3 bucket, sitemap. This is probably what we want right here, a seed URL connection, but that's a lot of stuff. Maybe we can try to get this working through the management console. And then what we could do is we could reverse engineer it. We could run an API call, or we could run a CLI call against it to get the structure of all of this, because there's so many options in here. Look at all this stuff. I don't know about you, but I think that'd be a nightmare to try to figure out like all of these things. So we could cheat a little bit by using the console to set it up, get it working, and then run an AWS CLI command to describe the configuration and then translate that into our Botto script. Maybe is the way to do it. Because look at all the stuff here. Okay, let's see what happened over here. Hey, look at that. It worked. So we've got, if we go back to the console, so it was the spaces in the name. So if we go to the console, go back here, refresh, we've got a retriever, so a queue retriever. There's the retriever ID. Perfect. All right. So makes sense, I guess, right? You can't have spaces in the names. You can have spaces in the descriptions. Makes sense. All right. So we wanted to now, we had already written out the custom web experience piece, the create web experience. So let's do that. And then all we have to do here is make sure we passed in everything we need. So let's shrink some of this stuff down. We'll get rid of all these guys. And this is what we're after. So I'm going to do the same thing we did before. Let's just copy this, bring it down here, and check. Okay, app ID, web prompt mode. Oh, see, yeah, we don't have everything. So our web prompt mode is either, I think it was enabled or disabled. Let me look in the web experience piece. Yeah, enabled or disabled. So we're going to just put this here as disabled. I don't really know what the difference is, to be honest. It's not very clear in the docs. So that's our prompt mode. Our subtitle. Subtitles. Wonder if the subtitle, yeah, I would think that the subtitle could have that, right? And then we need our web title. So let's actually change some of these. We're going to make it CO GordoBot AI. Actually, we'll call it assistant. So Gordo is, I don't know where this came from, but this is our, actually, let's do it this way. We'll call this, we'll follow along. We'll say a Twitch demo. Well, I don't like these names, but anyways, that's fine. And then we needed, I thought we had a welcome message, didn't we? Where was the welcome message? Index. Oh, sorry, where am I looking here? Up here. Yeah, we needed the welcome message, so we forgot that. So we'll put that here. So after the title. Too long. Yeah, okay. So Gordo is, I don't know where this came from now, but Gordo is the name of the logo, the little cat in the space helmet. I don't know. Okay, so that's that. Let's see how this, oh, we got to delete our app again, don't we? Back over here. There's got to be a better way to do this piece where we look to see if things exist. So delete that. Okay, so last time when this was deleting, we were able to run our script still. Let's just get rid of that. I think we're good there. Run. In the documentation, I think what we can do, developer Easter egg, yeah, there you go. I think what we can do, if I remember in the docs, we can demo the web experience without actually deploying the web experience, like test it and everything. So what we'll do is we'll add our crawler. We'll do that manually for the time being, and then we will test everything out. I don't know how long it'd take to crawl it and actually build all this stuff. So what do we want to do in the future? We want to add web, they call it a web queue crawler. I would like to do this, add a Slack queue crawler. I was mentioning this sort of as we started the stream, add a Jira queue crawler. I think that'd be kind of cool to see it work. So we've got our retriever, and then we're working on our web experience here, if this deploys successfully. This is where you need like cooking show magic. Just like, I'm going to create an index, and I have one over here, all ready to go. Oh, you know the other thing we should add to our to-do list, future to-do list? Let's put it right up here. I shouldn't use the word protect. Encrypt data using a CMK, right? So instead of using the queue managed key right here, or queue owned key, we can create our own KMS key. This might be a good mix of, we do things where we can with CloudFormation, right? We create the roles that we need. We create the KMS key that we need. If we need secrets in the secret manager for any of the connections that we make, we put those in CloudFormation, and then we can use the outputs of our CloudFormation stacks to become the inputs into our Q Gen AI assistant deployment. That'd be kind of neat. Right, the index is still going. You know, while we're waiting, why don't we do this? Let's check. We go back here. List. See this? We could do a list and then loop through the list, because the response would be an application ID, a display name. There we go. So we could put a loop at the beginning that says, check to see if the application exists with this display name. And that way we could put the logic in there to say, create the application. Oops, don't need to. Already exists. And I bet you there is a list retrievers, list indices. So this is the way to do it. Yeah, this is the way to do it, I think. List retrievers. You need your application ID. So this is all tied back to your application ID. And then we could get it's active, so you don't need to create it. Maybe we could do that. Let me add that to the to-do list. Look at Q business says no. No. Okay, so add logic to avoid the ongoing deletion / creation process. So let's fix our typo. I think that's the first typo we've had today, which, if I'm being honest, is a pretty good run, right? I know we've had other typos, but I mean, like, we're making an API call that we can't type the name in. Before we do that, let's get the application again deleted. And then here, create. I won't worry about creating the loops for things. But yeah, I think that would be a good idea. We could check to see if things exist, right? Now, here's our app name. We hard-coded the app name here. So maybe what we could do is something like this. We could do Q name equals, and we'll make it the same. It's just a Twitch demo app, right? Like this. And then maybe the idea is we could go in here and actually what we could do is do something like this. Would we put, now you probably wouldn't put that right in the create though, would you? It would make more sense to say something like, before creating the Q application, right? And we could do this. We could say, we almost need like, we could do, I don't want to put it right in here, but we could put the try loop in the main here. And we could do this instead. Get application Q application. How do I want to do this? Q app name. So we're pulling that from up here, which makes more sense because then we could even do that right here, right? Pass that in as, pass this in as Q app name like that. Okay, so here, list application, max results, look at that. If app display name equals Q app, return true or return none, return false. Okay. And then here, where did it go? We could just say if application or if is true. Yeah, we could just do this, right? We don't want to exit. And we say else create the app. I bet you there's a more elegant way to do that, but why does it? Oh, I put up. You see what I mean? So check to see if the application exists right here. If the application exists is true, which we do, let's shrink these guys down, right? Right here, we return true if the display name equals this. Now, is this actually what it returns? Let's check the doc. Trust but verify, right? So we want to list applications. Yeah, that's not correct. So we can say for in applications. If app equals, so it picked this out, right? It didn't have this. So if it equals Q app name, return it true. We loop through everything. We return it false. And then we decide if we want to create the app. Right here. Okay. That's maybe worth a shot. That would be a little better than what we're doing right now. What is it not liking about this? Our index is taking a long time to get created again. Let's go over to the console and see what it's doing. Still creating. Okay. Well, let's see what it does. I don't know about you, but it seems like it's taking longer and longer every time we try to create one of these. If we can get it to come to life this time, this will be a good wrap-up spot. So if this works cleanly, then what we could do is do the crawler just through the console while we get this thing to come to life. Doesn't feel like it's going to. I'll tell you what, if it doesn't work, we'll get rid of our web experience for the time being, because we know that everything works up to the retriever. And we could probably get our crawler set up without needing the retriever. Might be worth a shot. Oh, look at that. Have some faith, right? All right, so here we go. We refresh this. We've got our retriever, document count, all that great stuff. And now look, we've got subtitles, Twitch. So let's preview this. Okay, so yeah, save all. Oh, look at that. There we go. Say hi to Gordo. He's here to help. Oh, isn't that cool? Now this probably won't do anything. Yeah, see that? So he doesn't have any, I say he, I don't know why I said he. It does not have any sources of data. So let's configure some sources of data for our, what is this thing called? AI assistant. So we're going to do this through the console. So we're going to say add a data source, lots of data sources. We're going to do web crawler and we'll give it a name. Okay, so we'll call it web crawler, curious orbit, like that. Source URLs we'll use. So we'll say HTTPS curiousorbits.com. Doesn't need any authentication type. We don't need any proxies. We don't need any secrets manager stuff here, okay? Choose an existing secret that starts with it. I don't know why we would need that because we don't have any authentication details. No, nothing there. Use for data sources if you're unsure. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Sync subdomains. Sync the website domain with subdomains only. Sync the website domains with subdomains and other domains the web page links to. We don't want to do that because we have a lot of links going off to other things. So we want to keep it on just curiousorbit.com. Sync mode, full sync. Let's do new, modified, or deleted. And we're going to say run on demand. We won't worry about any of this stuff. Let's see. Does it let us do it, or are we going to miss something? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it does need a role of some sort. Amazon Q requires an IAM role to access repository credentials and application content. Okay. If you're unsure if an existing role for an application, choose create a new role. Create a new role. Ooh, I don't like this. Okay, so let's do this for now to see if it works. But this would be another example of something that we could put in code in CloudFormation to control all of this and then just refer to it here. So we'll queue business. Oh, and look, it needs to have a specific prefix name. We'll have a look at what this role looks like after the fact. Let's see, does it work now? There we go. Propagating role. Please remain on the page. Very close, very close. These 30-second wait times today are troubling. There we go. All right. So so pending creation. Let's go over here, go to roles, and go QBiz, all right? This is what it created for us. Trust relationship is QBusiness, and there's our specific application ID. And then what permissions does it get? S3 get object from any bucket. Okay. This is getting secret values. Decrypt secrets. So this is a KMS. Ingest documents. Okay. Wow, there's actually a fair amount in here. We'd have to look all these up. Yeah, look at what it created for us. Yeah, this definitely would take a little more research to figure out. But let's see what it did. Did it? Okay, it's active. Let's do it. Sync. Our website isn't that big. Maybe, I don't know actually how many pages it have. While we're waiting, what's this? View in CloudWatch. So it's a log group, right? So there's the log group for QBusiness. We can run. There is nothing here. Okay, so let's go log insights. Actually, go log groups. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. That's strange. Now, it did say that it had CloudWatch metrics, I think, as well, didn't it? Code Whisperer. I don't see anything. Wonder what, you know what? I was just talking about this the other day. You mentioned programming languages. Look at that, Python, YAML. Total character count, Python. Look at that. That's pretty neat. So it's got character counts for all the languages that it looked at. No YAML. JSON, that's a little weird. Hey, that's kind of neat though. Dimensions. Invocations, subscriptions, unique users, monthly active users, user count, daily active users. Hey, that's neat. This is me because I come through JetBrains. I'd have to look up all these metrics to see what they mean. And what's this? Oh, so this is showing you maybe things that were accepted and rejected. Wow. That's kind of cool. How's our crawler doing? Oh man, this is the worst part. Now I wonder if this is indexing. If we go back here, I was hoping to see documents counted somewhere. I don't know how long this is going to take. What time is it now? 9:58. Here's the thing. Did it create something in S3 to put everything into? Nope, that's just my demo bucket. So there's nothing in the account that it created. I guess it's just going to be a patience thing at this point. Well, you know what? I think we will call it here. That's a 2-hour stream. That's not too bad for the first one of the year. And we will pick this up next week and see if we can figure out how to deploy the web experience and get this thing all set up and running. Good progress. And I was also thinking that once we get this all kind of working, I will publish all the code in our GitHub repo. The cloud, like I'm thinking we could come up with some CloudFormation templates to do the roles that we need and stuff like that. And then I wonder in the documentation, IAM roles. So we looked at this one. Okay, so this is all well documented here. Look. Web experience. You must provide an IAM role with permissions to write to the relevant API calls. Okay. Data source connectors. I wonder if this looks like, yeah, this looks kind of like what we saw. So there's that. If your data source uses authentication, if you're using a VPC, if you're using secrets, I think we could tighten this up. So what I'm thinking is we could build all of this out, have all the role things that we need, all codified in CloudFormation, deploy all of that, and then run the script against it. So we can tighten up the script so we don't have to keep deleting and recreating stuff. We'll do that in the next session, and then see if we can get some CloudFormation done and get all of that deployed automatically through CloudFormation. And then I'll publish all of it in a sort of demo in GitHub. You can grab it from there, and if you'd like to use it in your account, you can. All right. So as always, thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll be back. We'll actually be back on Friday for our weekly Talking Cloud session at 2 p.m. Eastern. But we'll be back writing some code next Tuesday evening. So until then, have fun, get out there and learn some great stuff, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye for now.